Hi, and welcome to the Brohoyo podcast, the podcast about Gacha in general and Hoyoverse games in specific. I'm your host, Steven, and this is my co host, David.
Hey everyone.
And this week we're going to discuss how much Gacha is too much Gacha. And I'm actually going to throw the ball right over to you, Dave, and I'm going to let you take the reins here.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk this week. I saw a lot of comments and a lot of threads. Sometimes I'll see on Reddit people talking about how do you manage to play so many games with all these games that are coming out, because we had Wuthering Waves drop, we had Zenless Zone Zero drop. I'm gearing up for at the end of this month sort of Carnivala, which is a kind of a turn-based tactics like Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced esque game coming out. And so with all these games that are coming out that we're interested in, on top of the roster of games that we already have, how do you manage the day to day and doing the dailies and staying up to date and current with those different games? And so I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about and get to know, Steve, your routine as far as how you manage your games and what it looks like, and then talk about it myself. Because I understand that it can get a little overwhelming if you're trying to do everything every day, and it doesn't matter if it's teens or kids in school, or if you're an adult gamer playing on the go type thing and managing work and family life balance. So I guess where I want to start with this is to Steve ask you, how many gotcha games are you currently playing?
So at the moment, I am playing 4 gacha games, and typically that's about the max that I can balance. I'm basically at my saturation point of gacha games. The 4 that I am playing are Honkai Star Rail, Genshin, ZZZ, and Brown Dust 2. What I will occasionally do is switch out one or two, like on a day-to-day basis. So I might skip Genshin one day and play Nikkei instead. I might skip one of them, but typically I can fit about 4 gacha games into my daily routine without having to set aside special extra time in order to get it taken care of. But that's
Okay.
for me.
So because you mentioned you play four, and this is where I want to get into this
Mhm.
clarification, I guess, of what actually playing the gotcha is. Because you said you played four, but then you listed five.
Yes.
So in terms of, I guess I'll back it up even further.
Mhm.
In terms of playing gotchas, how many gotchas do you have installed, whether it be mobile emulators or just PC clients?
I have 5 installed at this point in time.
Okay.
So,
So five installed, and then on a daily rotation, you're essentially playing four,
yeah, 4
but
full
you
games.
keep up with five on a weekly basis at the very least, it sounds like.
Yeah, I try and dip my toe into all 5 of them. Or
Okay.
really, 3 of them I'm playing daily, 2 of them I try and touch weekly.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely three on the daily, but you alternate a fourth, but then ultimately all around you I would say you are current on five gotcha games. Okay. And similar, I have a similar library of games that I keep up with you. So yeah, I keep up with Genshin, I keep up with Star Rail, I keep up with ZZZ. So though that is oftentimes, if I have to make a sacrifice, that's usually the one that gets sacrificed,
Mhm.
because my time sunk cost fallacy is the lowest in that one. So if I ultimately abandon it, I haven't lost too much time to it, right?
Yeah.
So we have the three Hoyoverse big games that are being played. I also play Nikkei, Brown Dust 2 like you, and then I also have Snowbreak that I play through the Steam client that I've gotten back into and wanted to try out. And then on my phone, I have Eversoul, Azure Lane, and Idle Huntress, which I mentioned some of those in the past. So I guess that's what, three, four, five, eight. So I'm at eight gotchas
Okay.
total that I would say I keep up with on a weekly basis. And this is actually less than I've played with in the past, because I used to actually have more. And this is part of why I was seeing these threads and resonating with me a little bit, because I knew it got bad when I organize on my phone. I have all my gotcha games in a folder. I have an iPhone, and so you put them all in their own folder, and I just have it listed gotcha, and then you click in there. And if you're familiar with the iPhones, basically once you do that, you click in there, each row has 3 games on it, and then you can see about 9, so 3 by 3 grid essentially. And I got to a point one time where I had to scroll in there because I had more the 9 gotchas on my phone, and that's when I realized I needed to cut back. And so I know in previous episodes I talked about I dropped Epic 7, which I was a day one player on Epic 7, and I finally dropped that after however many years it's been that that game has been out. I dropped Blue Archive, which I'd been on and off again with that one. And I recently uninstalled the Brave 9 as well. So that's gotten me back down. And it's because the daily grind was getting very hard to manage.
Hmm.
And games, while some have a better daily grind loop than others, it was still getting to be too much. And so I really had to get very specific as to and into the nitty gritty of I got to cut out games. This is what I'm going to keep my cap at. So if I ever put a game on my phone now, I have to remove another one. So I've ordered them in the order in which I would delete them from my phone if I had to. And I think that's when I see these posts and people saying, "Oh, there's just too much."
Hmm.
It makes me wonder, like, well, what games are they playing, and how dedicated are they to each game?
Hmm.
So because for you, I imagine your daily loop is you're for Genshin and Star Rail, you're knocking out your 4 dailies for the battle pass, and then whatever you want to call the
Yeah,
burning your resin down and
if
getting
you
the 500 points,
yeah,
right?
if you want, I can walk through
Yeah, go
what it
ahead.
is. So
What do you do?
my dailies essentially boils down to I typically hit Honkai first because it has auto battle, so it's quick and easy. I also need to clarify I work from home, so it's a little bit easier to do all this on the PC client where I can just load it up on a second screen, third screen, separate system, and run through these on the side while I'm checking emails in the morning or doing whatever else it is I have to do. So typically run through Honkai Star Rail. I'll do, since we have 2 accounts, or I have 2 accounts on it because I've got my personal account and the Brohoyo one. I typically will do both. So it's go in, burn all the resin, make sure I've gotten all the dailies done. If it's Monday or particular day of the week, I'll try and do Divergent Universe and get that taken care of. Otherwise, it's just straight log in, run 6 of the artifact domains. They're not domains, they're the planar fissures or whatever they're called there, but gather artifacts and then log out. So that's quick, easy, auto battle done, nice and simple. I typically leave actually going through event stories or doing events for the weekend. That's going to be a general rule across all of these, is that the weekend time is when I do events unless I'm running up against a wall that I need to complete them, and then that'll typically be an evening after work thing. Then I do Genshin, because Genshin requires a lot more like active playing. That's a little bit more awkward to do while working, but not impossible. That one's one I try and fit in either during a break or during lunch. ZZZ is the same. Log in, do your dailies, grab the in-game coffee that they give you, run for upgrade materials, etc. Take care of that. And that's basically all in the Hoyo Play client now, so I knock all of those out in order. The one exception is with Brown Dust 2, because I can play that I move it over to a second monitor on my system, and it also has a lot of auto battle. I will typically do that one kind of at the same time as I'm taking care of the Hoyoverse ones, primarily because of the PvP in that you can auto battle through it, and it doesn't skip. It'll skip after the first turn, but you're doing 40 of them daily, and the first turn takes maybe 10-20 seconds to do.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So 20 seconds, that means 3 a minute times 40. It's a lot. It's like 10 minutes. Let's just put it that way. If I got my math right, I could be wrong there, but it's roughly like 10,
Sure.
15 minutes for that to run, and I'll let that run in the background and take care of it. And then for Nikkei, it's somewhat similar. That one has a roughly middle afternoon reset time, so I typically take care of that in the evening, and instead of doing it in the morning with everything else. So that's my evening game if I do it. But yeah, that's my general, very rushed version of how I manage it all.
Okay. So you're able to, through the ease of and the accessibility of PC clients, dual monitors, you can actually run some of the more auto battle friendly games at the same time. So you're getting that overlap. You're double dipping on your time, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then for those that are a little bit more action intensive, like Genshin, yeah, maybe it requires a little bit more of your focus. You're doing that. And I know for me, something that I think can help with folks that maybe feel overwhelmed if they're playing multiple gotcha games is understanding server reset times and utilizing that to your benefit. And what I mean by that is Genshin and Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero are pretty typical in that they reset while it's, the middle of the night
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. And I think it's like 3 or 5 in the morning or whatever it is, right? While most of us are asleep in terms of
Yeah.
in general. I know obviously people have different hours and work non-traditional jobs maybe, but in general speaking, there's that. Whereas a game like Nikkei or a game like Snowbreak, their dailies reset at 3 p.m. Central for Eastern, 2 Mountain, 1 Pacific in the States, right? So, and then a game like Eversoul resets at I think 9 o'clock Eastern or 8 o'clock Eastern, somewhere around there in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so by doing that, it allows you to plan out the day accordingly in terms of your games. And so like for me, my routine when I wake up in the morning and I set my alarm, I'm not one of those snooze people. The alarm goes off, I'm gonna be awake, but I set it off and then I wake up in bed for like 15 minutes, and that's usually when I knock out maybe my dailies and Idle Huntress because those are pretty quick to do. And then once I get to my lunch break, that's when I'll go through my Genshin and Star Rail rotation and getting those knocked out. And if I have time, then I'll throw in Zenless Zone Zero. And then, after I'm done working, and it's after that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern there window, then I'll go knock out Snowbreak, knock out Genshin, and then Brown Dust I think resets at 8 o'clock Eastern. So I'll queue that up at 8, and then for the auto battler stuff, like the PvP, I'll let that run in the background on the PC while I am playing. Maybe I go play a game of Teamfight Tactics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert: I'm a big Teamfight Tactics fan. I play a lot of that, more than I probably should, but I really enjoy it. Anyway, and then usually by the time a game at TFT is done, that Brown Dust 2 rotation PvP is over, and I can close that out. And then as I'm winding down my night and getting ready for bed, or I'm laying in bed winding down, I'll knock out my Eversoul dailies. And you're like, man, that seems like a lot. And it can if you let it, but also a bunch of these dailies, a lot of these games that I'm playing and I'm doing don't require a lot of active input from me. It's a lot of auto battle things, and the most intensive things I'm doing in the middle of the day. And so these auto stuffs that you can do, where you can sweep or find games that have sweep tickets or some sweep functionality, hopefully not sweep tickets, they just let you sweep, can help cut down that play time. And then similar to you, Steve, yeah, I save the doing content, so doing events or doing story stuff typically for the weekend when I can sit down for a multitude of hours and not have to maybe worry about getting up early in the morning to go to work on a Friday night or a Saturday night type thing. And so that's, I guess, my advice for those that are feeling overwhelmed is find gotchas that maybe don't all reset at the same time so you can force stagger them out. And also if they maybe don't have the same days that they do big patch or content releases, that's another one, so you don't feel overwhelmed on like a Tuesday if every game has that on a Tuesday.
Well, and
Um,
I'm curious how much, because we're both functionally free to play. I'll admit I guess I'm technically a light splender. I wouldn't consider myself a dolphin, but I guess by some definitions I am. Again, I spend an MMO's monthly fee on
mhm.
Gacha each month. But for us, our investment in each of them is really mainly time, and even then,
Yes.
that time is mostly, again, auto battling, so on and so forth. We don't have that same. I dropped $500 on this game in a week or whatever, day one or whatever, in order to get a character, and I don't want to say our emotional attachment is lesser than people who have done that, but I would say it's different walking away from a game that you've played for a long time but haven't really put any money into. I imagine, or at least for me personally, that would be different than something like a game that you've dropped potentially $1,000 in over the course of 3 years, 4 years, however long, or 3 weeks, depending
Um,
on how you play your gotchas.
yeah, that's a fair point. And this is why I struggled for so long to remove Epic 7 from my phone because I was a day one player. I really liked the graphics engine they used in that game for a lot of the character cutscene type stuffs. But it really took some me having a deep hard look at the game and what I was getting out of it versus what was I playing it for
Mm-hmm.
and what were my goals in that game. And so then when I ultimately thought about it and then also comparing it to other games I was playing, I just it unfortunately didn't make the cut. It got down, like I said, to the final four on my phone, as it were, and then got cut. So it was a very fun, good game, but just that's how much the day one player whole
Mm-hmm.
kept me with the game. Because I would honestly say for probably about a year, I wasn't even completing the weekly missions. I wasn't maxing out weekly missions. I would
Yeah.
get maybe like 2 or 3 dailies done per week, but I wouldn't even get the weekly stuff set up. And then I wasn't really participating in the guild stuff so much anymore. And so that's when I finally said, you know what, if I can't invest this next week and actually like make it through the week, then it's time to cut it. And that's one thing I've done. Other things I've done with like Blue Archive and where I dropped that one, I wasn't a day one player on that. I was always in and out on Blue Archive. Like I tried it at launch, didn't love it, dropped it, picked it up a year later with when some QOLs, some quality of life stuff was
Mm-hmm.
updated, dropped it, and then recently I picked it back up, and then the progress, even as a player who's supposedly getting a lot of the catch up mechanics as like a quote unquote newer player,
Yeah.
I still felt the progress was very slow. And so for that particular game, I literally sat there and I said, I'm gonna burn all the pulls I have, all the currency I have on this banner, and if I hit, then it'll stay on for like another month. And if I miss completely, it's gone. And I missed, so it was gone. So sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah. I mean,
You just leave it up to the fates. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
exactly. And I think one of the big takeaways that if not that anybody's necessarily coming to us for advice or coming to me for advice, but if someone was asking like, "Hey, I've got all these gotcha games, it's too much." I guess at the end of the day, it's you have to be willing to walk away. If all you're doing is logging in, doing dailies, and logging out, are you really playing the game at that point? I'm going to be honest, it's the reason why Wuthering Waves didn't manage to hook me was because I wasn't enjoying the game. Like I was logging in, I was doing the dailies, I had a bunch of pools, but I wasn't playing the game, which is where I feel like those weekend sections are very important. Where it's, are you
Yeah.
spending, are you setting aside a time? And you don't have to. Like again, there's so many things that are more important in life than gotcha. Like I love gotcha, but you don't need to spend. Don't waste your life on gotcha, people. But anyways, if you're finding that you're not willing to set aside the time to do events, you're not willing to set aside the time to actually play the game, the game side of it, not just the dailies, then maybe just cut it. It's part of the reason why I have the hard cap of 4 a day, maybe 5 or 6 that I keep on a system at a time, is because there's other games I want to play. I play Elden Ring, I play Teamfight Tactics with you, or yeah, Teamfight Tactics. I've been enjoying the Swarm mode that League put out because it's just Vampire Survivor, and I really enjoyed Vampire Survivor. We play other games outside of Gacha, and if you're locked into just Gacha games, I don't know.
And and if you ever do, like I said, at the end of the day, playing the games should be fun. Like, it should be something that you enjoy, whether it be the story, whether it be specific characters, the gameplay. Maybe you just enjoy building up teams and mix and matching character synergies and trying to figure out what works best, right? And just having fun with that. But if it ever gets to the point where you're getting burned out or it's feeling like a task or a chore to do it, then maybe it's time to reevaluate that particular game and what it's bringing to you. So that's like I said, if that was like my thing to like tell these kids that I see on Reddit or adults that I see on Reddit posting about how do you deal with this or how do you deal with the burnout, like you said, be willing to walk away because at the end of the day, it should be fun. And I think the other thing I wanted to ask too, like in seeing these posts or seeing, getting these comments or people asking me, about this, I think I have my answer to it, but I don't want to maybe,
Yeah, poison.
bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to bias your answer. So I'm just going to ask the question and then I'll share my thoughts afterwards. But are we seeing maybe an uptick in this because we're just in a time period where we're just seeing a lot of like hyped releases, so people, are getting, excited for these games coming out and they have FOMO, so they want to get them all and juggle them all and manage them all? Or is it just, or is this just maybe something that's always, this is just human nature and therefore it's something that's like always going to happen? Or is it specifically because of the amount of good gotcha games that have come out or quality gotcha games that have come out?
Yeah. I'm going to give the most annoying answer of all, which is yes and no.
Only a little bit of column
A
B.
little bit
Okay,
of
all
column
right.
A, column. So what I do think is that for prior to, I'm gonna I'm gonna use Genshin Impact as the watershed moment here. There were good gotcha that came out before it, but it's the big one that broke into the mainstream. I think prior to that, you would still have the issue of if you enjoy gotcha games, if you enjoy that gameplay loop, if you enjoy the semi gambling aspects, the semi roguelike aspects, things like that, you were eating good. And you had people who had difficulty balancing what games there were even then. I think that with the current 3 to 4 year boom that we're seeing in higher quality gotcha games coming out, more production value, more mainstream success, you are getting a lot of people who are I don't want to say trying to ride every wave, but you want to be part of the Genshin experience. You want to be part of the Star Rail experience. You want to be part of the Wuthering Waves experience. You want to be part of Blue Archive. You want to be part of, and I'm blanking on the game that just got the global webpage, Girls Frontline 2?
Girl Frontline 2,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, Girls Frontline 2. When that one comes out, Girls Frontline was a good gotcha game. Girls Frontline 1 was a good gotcha game. Hopefully,
Still ongoing,
yeah,
by the
it's
way.
still ongoing.
7 or 8 years in.
Yeah, and 2 is hopefully going to be as good, if not better. So there is a feeling that we're in a period where you're eating good. And not to give away the game too much about next week on our topic, but there is also a lifespan to a lot of these games. So if you're not getting in and playing them when they're live, you might potentially miss it. It's like the MMO boom of the late aughts, early 2010s, where there's all of these MMOs coming out, and if you were to play every MMO that came out, you wouldn't have time in the day.
Goodness, yeah, there was because it was, yeah, the success of WoW, and then you had Guild Wars, you had
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, you had, I think, Lord of the, or not Lord of the Rings.
Well, Lord of the Rings was one of them, but
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I was like, maybe they did now that I'm thinking
yeah,
about it. But Elder Scrolls Online, like, yeah, all and many more. And then of course there's Eve Online and Fantasy Star. Yeah. Anyway, to your
yeah.
point, go ahead.
Well, City of Heroes, etc., etc. So, and now, how many of those games are still in service? So, if you missed that boom, if you didn't get a chance to play, I'm going to use City of Heroes because it's my own personal lost love MMO. But if you didn't get a chance to play City of Heroes when City of Heroes was out, you never are going to get to play it again. I know that there's private servers and there's a whole thing. I've got moral reasons why I refuse to play it. Not because I'm against servers, I just don't like the people who ran it. But anyways, and with gotcha games, I don't necessarily see the same private server aspect that you get with like dead MMOs. Like there probably are private gotcha servers out there where you could go out and play. I don't know. Fantasika is the one that I'm going to use. Just pull it out of a hat because it's one I know that we both played and I know it's end of life. There's a Fantasika server out there, maybe, possibly could exist, but I doubt it. It wasn't that large of a game, if I remember correctly, and a lot of gotcha games, especially pre 2020, were disposable media. They were not built and designed to necessarily last for 10 years or survive end of service, which again is a subject we'll talk about later.
To be fair,
But
there are still games that are created that are not meant to last very long, just reusing same IPs, some even using same graphics or assets. But yeah, to
Pokemon
your
a hard
point,
look.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, to your point, yeah, I think there's more of an emphasis on trying to make a sustainable game that still finds a way to make money out of its fan base.
Hmm.
And I agree with you, yes, that it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but where's the fun in being a fence sitter, right?
Yeah.
If I had to attribute one over the other, is it that we're seeing just a bigger boom and an uptick in high quality gotcha games, or is it maybe just more of is it more of human nature, right? Is it
Hmm.
nature, or is it nurture? Nurture in
Nurture.
this case being just games,
Yeah.
and I would say a lot of it's human nature, and I think like you mentioned with Genshin as that benchmark and that catalyst, it brought a wider audience of people into gaming in general, but also specifically gacha gaming. Maybe some people will call normies, right? It brought a lot of normies into
Yeah.
the gaming sphere. And so I think that's what maybe we see is people that weren't raised on gaming, weren't familiar with maybe some of these mechanics or
Or just
whether
new
it
to
be
gacha in general, because gacha gaming is its own unique.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the broader terms, gaming, but yeah, like you mentioned, and specifically with gotcha mechanics. So the idea that you're not going to have access to every character, the fact that if you are free to play, you need to budget out your account and plan accordingly. And so if you're a gotcha veteran, which by the time Genshin comes around, like I said, I think by that point, you and I have been playing gotchas for 10 years.
10, 8 years, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range.
each 10 years. So the expectation and a lot of the things that come with it, we had grown accustomed to, but maybe people that are experiencing Genshin for the first time and maybe they go to pull on banner and they miss out, or maybe they're like, man, I got to explore everything and I got to do everything right here, right now type thing. It can be pretty overwhelming. And so I think that's what we've seen a lot of. And again, yes, there is some aspect that we are now seeing more games come out that are of higher quality, and there's the FOMO aspect, and we have plenty of games on the horizon with what Azure Promelia, the Neverness to Everness stuff that just dropped. Yeah, Girls Frontline 2, coming out hopefully soon.
Let
Yeah, so
me.
it's just we are eating good in 2024 for
Yeah.
gotchas.
And I guess let me throw out a potential option C, which is,
Okay.
do you think that with this increase in quality, increase in development, and so forth in gotcha games, that we're seeing games that are designed more to be full lifestyle games, like MMO style, where, yeah, there's a daily loop, but I'm going to use ZZZ as an example that because it just came out. And Wuthering Waves works for this as well. Both of them are action RPG games that if you want to do your dailies, you can knock them out in 10 minutes, but you have to be really on point to get those done in 10 minutes. Because just the general loop of playing through the dungeons 6 times or however many times takes time, and then everything else that is involved with running around in an open world or running around even in a small hub zone takes more time than the traditionally like menu based systems that you
Hmm.
see in older gotchas. That are we seeing that there's also an increase in time demand from gotcha games that might be adding an additional pressure onto this?
Yeah, I think that could be a fair point because developers they want you to be in their game because the more you're in the game, the more likely you are to spend. And so yeah, we see this, and even in games that aren't necessarily gotcha games, but have maybe gotcha type elements. We see things. Well, I mean, it's always been a thing in Madden and FIFA that they're notorious with their packs that you can buy
Mm-hmm.
and build your teams out or whatever. But even in the past when we saw Destiny 2 shift from a paid game to free to play, we saw Overwatch shift the same way with Overwatch 2. You have games like the first Descendant that just came out. So yeah, you're seeing things, the reasons to keep you in the game playing longer, and then those teasers try and pull money out of you, whether it be to save you time in grinding for materials or save you time in leveling up your characters or whatever have you. So yes, I think that's a fair observation.
Okay. Yeah, that just came to me because I remember that I think it was GTA 5. It's the most recent GTA, if I remember correctly. You can tell I'm a big GTA fan, but it was like explicitly designed to take up lots of space on a system's hard drive, like in order to push off other games.
Oh, you actually mean the file size
Yeah, the file
itself.
size. Well, that's not necessarily gotcha, but it's a similar idea where there's an acute awareness within gaming in general that you have a lot of options in front of you, and
Interesting.
there's systems and like designers and companies are looking for ways to both push other games off of your system as well
And
as
it's such
keep
an
you locked in.
interesting. That's such an interesting take that literally. So the that you're not saying it's on the forefront, but it is like in the back of their mind. Like, if we make this game this file size, maybe it'll restrict them from having
Yeah.
4 games on their phone to having 3 games on their phone or whatever.
Well, look at
And
the size of Genshin right now. Can you have Genshin on your phone and have how many other? I mean, I don't know. Do you have Genshin on your phone? I don't.
I don't. I've
Yeah,
never had Genshin on my phone, but a lot to on the charity of the conversation, right? I have had Star Rail on my phone.
true. It's as have I. But that was also
And
year
even
one when it was a much tiny.
and yeah, Star Rail is not as big as Genshin, to be fair, but it is a larger file of a game.
Mhm.
And yeah, decisions and things had to be made, and some optimizations on the phone had to be made in order to fit the games that I was actively currently playing. And this did lead to me dropping some gotcha games that were still in my trial phase. Like I maybe cut the trial phase a little shorter than I normally would. So this would be, I think, a game like when Echoapolis came out.
Mhm.
There was that one. There was, I think, Swordmaster Story. Also, I got cut off my phone a little shorter than I wanted to because of size demands of other games that I knew I was committed to, type stuff. So yeah, I think that's a fair point. That's a good point, and one that again I don't think it's necessarily on the forefront of their minds, but I think it could be a factor in some things. So in closing, yeah, with the gotcha games and how much gotcha is too gotcha, at the end of the day, it's as long as you're enjoying the games and just the PSA, right? Just not letting it affect your personal relationships and your overall livelihood, right?
Yeah.
That answer is going to vary for other folks because, like you mentioned, yeah, Steve is playing 5 gotchas on a weekly basis, and I'm sitting at about 8 that I do on the weekly basis as well. But it works for both of us. So that would be kind of my closing thoughts on that. Steve, you got anything?
No, I agree. Manage what you can. As far as gotcha goes, it's just a game. Like it's always just a game. I would also say that whatever your, like, if you do find that you're at your carry capacity of gotcha games, maybe also consider dipping below that. This way, you also have flex room because there's always some game around the corner. Dave, you suggested a cat girl game to me this week, which I ended up passing on
I didn't,
because
now let's be fair. I didn't suggest it to you. I just said, "Hey, I know you were upset about missing Nico and ZZZ. I saw this game is apparently coming to the States. I'd only heard about it in the Japanese
uh
market,
huh.
but yes, I
Well,
didn't suggest it to you.
oh, okay.
Come
That
on
that doesn't
now.
count as a suggestion. Okay.
I'm
The
not saying,
definition
hey,
of
you must play this game. I said, hey, this is interesting and a little out there. And then you did some more research and knew more about it than me within 30 seconds about it. It's waifus that are transformed from cats. They're
yeah,
not like cat girls. They're actually cats that
cats
have
that turn into
transformed into
girls,
girls,
which
which made it. Yeah, I
yeah,
love what you said. It crossed an invisible line you didn't know you had.
yeah, a weird invisible line I didn't even know I had. Regardless, try some flex room in there, just because you never know what will come across. The table. You might find that weird cat girl game that you're just like, you know what, it works for you.
Look,
But yeah,
we've been hit with some global announcements of games that I'm like, not surprised that there is a gotcha game of it, but I am surprised that it's doing really well because there is
yeah,
that one that apparently does really well in, I believe, the Japanese server, or maybe the Chinese server, maybe both. And then there was the very popular, I believe it's the Japanese server, is horse racing, like,
yeah,
you race waifus and they are horses, and I believe that is
yeah.
Japanese.
It's Uma
And
no something.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Very popular, and it's coming to global at some point. And I did not know this, but it's also based, like the characters are based off of real life horses in, like, I guess Japanese horse racing lore, I believe.
so do we get to like shoot the girls with shotguns if they break their legs?
I don't know. It's supposed to be a cutesy,
Oh, that's like that would be
adorable
half
thing.
the
There's none of
fun.
that. This isn't. Oh wow, what kind of morbid, twisted sense of
Look,
humor.
I'd
Wow.
I'd
Okay.
I'd laugh so
Um,
hard if that
and
was a
like I said,
mechanic.
I think it's Japanese horse racing history. If it's Chinese or another Asian descendancy, I apologize and misconstruing, but it is very popular and it's coming to our side. But anyway, yeah. So there's always one around the corner. So treat your gotcha games like being over encumbered or whatever your inventory can hold without being over encumbered. Right. Now I do want to get into some other stuff we have going on because there are some events for Genshin and Star Rail, I believe, and then also a lot of events going outside the Hoyoverse universe that I want to share. So let's jump into that next. So looking at our events this week in Hoyoverse games, looks like we had two events that are on us. And so for those, Steve, I'm going to throw it over to you, breaking down what's going on in Hoyoverse events.
Okay. So both of the events are Zenless Zone Zero events. Currently, both Honkai Star Rail and Genshin are in limbo. We're waiting for new patches to drop for them, or we're in the middle of summer events.
Yeah, so to be
So,
fair, in Genshin, yeah,
yeah.
we're exploring a whole fun zone, it looks like, that I'm finally cracking into. Anyway,
Yeah. And we might loop back and do like a final review a little bit later of the summer event. But regardless, the new event for Zenless Zone Zero is Watch Your Step. It's basically you do a bunch of the puzzle television screen type activities. So it's more of a puzzle in the first half, and then it usually wraps up in a quick fight. At least so far, it's fine. It again, I think my biggest criticism of the events so far have been that they haven't really done anything with the combat system or with any of the systems in the game. It seems a lot of just taking what already exists or what we've done in other versions, other game modes of the game, and just providing a event tab on them. I would like to see them start messing with it a little bit more, playing around with it a little bit more. But we're still within the first month, so can't get too upset in that regard. It is also worth mentioning that they are doing what's called the A Na into your lap event. It's not anything super crazy, it's just 10 free Bangbu pulls, but it adds an interesting little dynamic to ZZZ where if, those of you who are aware of Honkai, you get 10 free pulls on the character banner, on the limited banner, every patch. Well, it looks like in ZZZ we're going to get 10 free pulls on the patch limited banner, and then in the second half we'll get Bangbu pulls. You'll get 10 of those to encourage you to continue to log in and continue to play. So, I don't know, that might be a draw for you, it might not. It's a neat little bonus, nothing crazy. I do also really quickly want to mention that we are aware that a new character dropped for ZZZ, but at the moment, since both Dave and I are mixed on it, we're not certain if it's going to make it into our full rotation or not. We're not going to do character reviews for them the same way that we have with Honkai and Genshin. So for the moment, that's going to be a little bit in limbo. We might start doing them if either of us dive super deep into that game. But regardless, let's jump back to you, Dave, for other Gacha news, not Genshin news.
I'm glad you mentioned the new banner dropping because I was thinking that should be coming up or it was here soon. 'Cause I was thinking of pulling for it since I didn't pull on the first banner, and maybe I give it the final ultimatum, right? I pull if I hit, I stay, and if I don't, it's out. I don't know. We'll see. But
Sure.
anyway, in other gotcha news, yeah, I want to share because we love pulling, right? That's part of the reason, part of the draw to gotchas is that gambling aspect. But if you need to scratch that pulling itch that you have, but you don't want to waste currency in a game that you are invested in, Blue Archive is currently doing a 100 free pulls event, so you get 10 pulls per day. And I think by the time we edit this, get this up, it will have been like 8 or 9 days. So you'll be having sitting 90 pulls essentially for free, and then just one more day for the 100th pull. There, they do have some good banners going on right now. If you do play the game and are interested in the meta, there are of the three characters, really only one of them is a skip. But there's, I think, and in her dress is a unit to pull for, and then I forget the name of the other one that you want to pull for, but because I don't play the game all that much. But basically, she's the girl in the tank Those two are pretty solid units. There's one unit, I think Makoto, I think is the one that, from what I've read and my understanding, is skippable,
Hmm.
except she is limited. So if you're a collector, maybe you want to pull once for that. But again, if you just want to scratch that itch and use pulls in a game that you're not invested in, Blue Archive has 100 free pulls. Or if you do play Blue Archive, hey, it's a good time to return and check in so you can get those. In the game that I do play a lot of, right, Nikkei, they just finished up their huge summer event. So for those that were interested in getting the limited skins for Rosanna and Sakura, those banners are over, as are the Summer Mary and Neon reruns. Those are also done. So they wrapped up that event, which was a really fun event. They really did a good job. And for this next event, they've introduced a new character, Ein, who is a Burst 3 sniper user from the Missilus manufacturer. So a not Tetra unit for once. Amazing. And she's of the electric element, if you need that there. Reviews are still out. My resources are tapped because I went all in on summer stuff for Rosanna and Sakura. So I won't be pulling for Ein. I will be saving up. Also worth noting in this event, they are rerunning the summer skins from last year, Anise and Helm. Their summer versions are being rerun currently. So if you are interested in picking those up, if you missed out on those last year, you can. Anise, Summer Anise being a Burst 3 shotgun user, and Summer Helm being a Burst 2 assault rifle user. Summer Anise is really fantastic in your shotgun team or your last bullet, if you have the last bullet mechanic team. Really great unit there. Summer Helm is a good Burst 2 unit as well with some cooldown reduction, which is only a handful of units have, so pretty decent there. In other Gacha news outside of that, Snowbreak, they have a big event going on right now, and they just actually released a new SSR unit, or equivalent of SSR unit, right? That they actually gave away for free if you log in with a new version of Fenny, who I believe is a rifle user of some kind. I don't know if it was an SMG or if it was an assault rifle, I don't remember. But you get that SSR unit for free, and then they have their event going on, which has a couple different fun gameplay modes, one of which is a Pokemon capture type thing. So you run around with your gunner girl, and then you can have a party of Pokemon that run around outside their Pokeballs with you and help you fight and capture other not Pokemon. And and then if you are a spender in that game, I know there's been some talk and some excitement about the wedding skins. You can get married to two of your waifus in that game, one of which being this new Fenny unit, and the other one being the Life unit that was out, that came out last patch and may still be going on for another week. So I think, Steve, you had mentioned to me off air that they were $30 skins. So for those that are interested
Yeah.
in stuff like that, that's there for you. Anyway, and lastly, in Brown Dust 2, they are in the middle of their track and field summer event. I think, again, themed this way because the Olympics are kicking off here in the near future. But they just released a new character, Lavia. She is a brand new character to the game itself. So this is a character, if you're familiar with the franchise, was in Brave 9. This is her first appearance as a playable costume in Brown Dust 2. And in my effort to pull for her, I lost 9 coin flips in a row. I hit 9 SSR units in my pulls, and I believe it's a 50-50, and I lost all of them. I had to ultimately spend 200 dust to get her, so I was a little ticked about that. It's very hard to lose 9 50-50s in a row, but we did it. Anyway, she's out there. She's a solid magic unit, fire magic, DPS type, and if, like I said, her lore in lore, she's very strong in the universe itself, and I think the unit itself is actual potential to be pretty strong as well, from my understanding. And then their fiend boss they have going on right now has a really annoying mechanic, which I absolutely hate. I was sharing with Steve the mechanic if you play Brown Dust 2 in that game is if you attack for 7 or more times on like the same grid space, it'll trigger a counter attack from the enemy that reduces your damage by 100% for 20 turns. And aren't a lot of debuffers, or a lot of cleansers, excuse me,
Hmm.
in that game. And if you're familiar with the combat in that game, the whole way to build up damage is to attack the same squares repeatedly and build up that chain combo. So to have a mechanic that kind of negates that is a little annoying. But that's what's going on now if you are interested in trying that game out. We do want to thank you guys for joining us this week. Let us know down below how do you manage to play your gotchas? What does your rotation look like? Or do you think I'm crazy for playing 8? Or do you think Steve could afford to add a few to the rotation? Just let us know. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to leave a comment, like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. You can always email us at brohoyopod@gmail.com with questions or suggestions for the show. We have a link down below to our Discord there in the description, so you can join us over there for news, any game nights, more content notifications. Join us next week when we discuss the dreaded end of service announcements in gotchas. But until then, keep gaming.
We made a choice, go fight against your fate.